Warm greetings to you, friends. I'm coming to you today to talk to you a little bit more about something really approachable that you can do for depression. What happens a lot of times when we're experiencing mild to moderate to even severe depression is that we hear from professionals, mental health professionals like myself, or from others, just exercise, just move, just go for a walk, whatever it is, get up and shower. And what's interesting is what's countering the desire to do that or the will to do that is the depression. And so it can be really hard to go from what feels like just get up and exercise 0 to 60, is that we miss that there's some smaller steps in there that can be really beneficial to kind of melting a bit of that depression. And the interesting thing is maybe no one's ever explained why movement is so crucial to experiencing symptoms of depression, remembering that depression is just that. It sort of presses us closer to the earth, really kind of depletes our energy, gives us low motivation, and a real lack of desire to do anything that can be a betterment for ourselves. And movement gets a little fire into the body, a little fire into the energy. And what's happening in depression is the body and the mind are going stagnant. And if you think of a pool of water that goes stagnant, what's needed in the pool of water is movement. And so we need to try to get the movement in there. So all of those statements, as correct as they are, tend to be really difficult to jump into. The just do it doesn't really show up in depression. But what I want to show you today is something really mild and simple. And if you could get yourself to do part of it, a portion of it, perhaps working your way up to doing it twice a day, to 3 times a day, to making it part of your routine. And eventually, what might happen is you move enough of the stagnancy that you get some motivation to be able to move more, go for a walk, take a shower, start to exercise, whatever that might be. So what I'm going to share with you today is something called Joint Freeing Series. And it comes from my yoga background, and it also comes from the studies I've done in Qigong and Tai Chi. And so it's real consistent across the board there. And it is exactly what the title is it's Joint Freeing Series, is we're just going to simply move systematically every joint in the body. And I would suggest to you that you find the pattern that works for you, but to do this in an orderly fashion so that you know that you're moving through pretty much every joint. So you can start from the top of the body and work your way down, or you can start from the bottom of the body and work your way up. You could also start from the outsides of the body, from feet and fingers, and work your way in. Not just for depression, but also for a good warm-up for your day, a good wind down from the end of your day. If you've been sitting in your desk all day in a chair, a long car ride, plane rides. I will do this on long trips back and forth between the US and Japan to just keep the stagnancy away from my body. And then when my body gets stagnant, my mind gets stagnant, and vice versa. So let me go through it with you. I'm not going to do it fast, but I'm also not going to do it super slow. But I would say that doing this really slow and mindfully has its own benefits to it, as opposed to doing it very quickly, right? So we don't want to move too fast some of our joints, because we want to be aware of maybe what the feeling and sensation is in that joint for the day. So I'm going to start top to bottom. And so when I start from top to bottom, I typically start with my neck, and I'm just going to start to move it from side to side, and that's going to be just turning it from right to left. So you could probably figure out really easily all the different directions that your joints move. You live in your body. You know which way they move. So once I go side to side here, I'm now going to just tilt ear to shoulder. And this isn't about stretching. It might feel like a good stretch, and you might want to pause on that, and that would be okay. But it really is just about the movement. So however little movement you might have in your neck or any of your joints is just fine. And then I'm going to go from forward to back. Now, a joint that often gets forgotten in joint freeing series is the joint that's our jaw. So don't forget that this jaw needs to find some movement and can actually let go of some of the stagnancy that might be happening inside the face. And then I want to move to my shoulders, right? I'm going to roll my shoulders back. I'm going to roll them forward. And I'm also going to get a bigger movement in there. So I'm going to roll my shoulders with my whole arm movement. And again, if you can only do a small arm movement, that's fine. I'm going to swim backwards and then I'm going to swim forwards. Right? I could do this exercise seated. I could do this exercise standing. I could do this exercise laying in bed, so I could roll over to one side and do only one side at a time if I want. Elbows. Wrists. I rotate the other direction. Anytime I can get a joint going in both directions, I will do that. And fingers. And you knuckle crackers. This might be where you want to get a little bit more movement in through knuckles. You can do that. I'm not so much of a knuckle cracker. I only have one or two that do that, right? But just getting the movement through the joints of the fingers. And then, so I've gotten that entire upper body. If I pause for just a moment here, I can already feel that there's some energy and more bounce or spirit or lift in my arms and shoulders and my neck as compared to the rest of my body, which feels pretty still and pretty quiet. So let's continue making that contagious throughout. So what I want to do is just get my spine to move a little bit more here. And one of the best ways for the spine to move is a rounded forward back, like a cat-cow. So I'm just going to round my spine. And I'm going to arc my spine from the back. And just do that a few times. Good. And then I might find a little side-side movement to my spine. Spine moves in 6 directions. Flexing right and left, forward, back, and twisting left and right. And then I'll find that twist. And it doesn't have to be much. Just a little twist from side to side. And then here again, when I come back to center, if I pause and just feel what's going on from my waist all the way up to the top of my head, now that I've moved some of this part of my body, yeah, I feel a little lighter. Feel a little zippier up there, yeah? So now I want to get into my lower body, and I want to get into hip sockets, knees, ankles, and toes. So for hip socket while I'm seated, all I have to do is just find a little rolling in that ball and socket here. And here I'm just moving my knee back and forth in this direction. If I'm standing, I do some hip rolls, right? I'm trying to show you the easiest way. There's no right way to do this. Just find a little movement in each joint. That's it, okay? This is a little harder to do both joints at once in the lower body. So I'm doing one at a time. And there we go. And then we might get some clicks and pops in our joints. It's okay. If you do things nice and slow, we don't have to worry about any kind of damage. Here I'm moving my knee joint. I'm just straightening, bending. Straightening, bending. The only amount of room that you need to go, right? So if you can't straighten a knee all the way, you can't bend it all the way, no problem. Just go where you can. And then I'm going to find my ankle movement, and I might be able to do both at once here. And I like to change my ankles in both directions, right? So getting a movement in both directions here. And then toes, I like to help them along a little bit. So I bend toes back and forth here manually with my own hands. Yeah. And then once again, I can come to a place of quiet and seated and just kind of notice. Aha. Yeah, that I have a lot more lightness moving through my entire body and a little more energy. And perhaps this doesn't get me jump started fully into my day, but the more I do this, the less stagnancy I have in my body. And that's going to affect my mind. So I encourage you to try this joint freeing series and to find your own way, whether you do it from toes up to the top or from the top down to the bottom, however it best suits you. But to just start to melt a little bit of your depression away, to dedicating to just the smallest amount of a movement that seems to be pretty efficient to start out. Give it a try, comment, email me if you need to. I'd love to hear how it works for you. And for those of you who are practitioners or mental health providers, please share this with your clients or maybe even do this in the office with them. Have a great day.